You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast on BQN. We're here to showcase the films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. From independent and obscure to art house and absurd, each episode will gather, perhaps cocktail in hand, to discuss it all. I'm your host, Mark, and with me today are Matt and Mel. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome back. Melissa Larson, our number one fan.
Oh, yes. How's it going?
It's going great. It's crazy.
Yes, and it's that week.
It is that week. It's like Hell Week. It's Hell Week before Christmas.
My bells are jingling.
Oh my.
Matt, things good with you? You're now on the East Coast. We're in the same time zone.
I know, this is the first time. I'm in Brooklyn right now. It's very nice and wintry and cool over here. I'm using my dad's studio space. My dad's got all the cool toys in here. I feel so professional.
That's cool. I'm in my bed with a really old laptop that doesn't work if it unplugs. So yeah, we're in opposite worlds. And I'm on the West Coast, so we couldn't be more opposite.
Well, I'm sitting in my dry sauna in my Swiss chalet. So
how will they know otherwise?
Just absorb that, listeners. Hold on, which reminds me, I gotta pour some more water on the thing. Hold on.
Oh God.
That sounds so real.
I mean, why not? Okay. If you can't dream it, be it. Okay.
Exactly.
What's everybody drinking? Let's go around.
I'm drinking water because last night the rumor is I maybe had one too many hot buttered rums.
Ooh.
So yes, I'm drinking water today.
Yes.
So
I'm actually, you know what? I'm going with the classic today. 'Tis the season. I'm doing some eggnog, some alcoholic eggnog.
Oh, 'tis the season.
Fun story. I didn't realize that eggnog is traditionally an alcoholic drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was introduced to eggnog, I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old. So I always thought that it was, a non-alcoholic drink. And then when I got to be like 20, 21, I was with my stepmom and we had some eggnog. And it was in like a nice fancy bottle. And we just thought, this is going to be nice and cute. And then we poured it and we were like, whoa. And then we just like drunkenly decorated the Christmas tree that night.
Hell yeah.
Tipsy off of eggnog. And it was like a whole thing. It was amazing.
that sounds really good, actually.
Oh,
it was great.
Yeah, after consuming all the hot buttered rum, I think I might have been able to do an eggnog today. Should have thought of it.
my family at the holidays, there's usually not eggnog. And there was at my grandparents' house when I'd go there as a kid, but at my parents' house, it's usually just Fireball. To be honest, that's a pretty normal. I mean, it's a cinnamon whiskey. We have that for the holidays.
It is. When
I drink Fireball, I think about Christmas.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Fireball means something totally different to me. And when I was growing up, when the men caught a fish, they had to do a straight shot of Fireball. I'm an Oregonian, remember? So yeah, Fireball is it just means fish to me.
I'm glad I don't smell fish when I think about Fireball. That's
me
all I'm
too. Yeah, would ruin your holiday.
Well, listeners, I'm on theme. So if you remember at the beginning of the film, when we're first introduced, to Mr. Valentine, and he is getting into the stretch limousine that the Duke brothers have, they're like, hey, we got some whiskey or whatever, and they're shaking the bottle at him. And so I was like, all right, I am just gonna have some straight ass whiskey today, with some ice. Just like the Dukes
this
would
is going to
have
be a
it.
very fun pod, listeners. This is going to be very, very fun.
You're on theme, and it's very appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm just going to start calling Mark Randolph. I'm just going to start calling him Randolph.
Well, listeners, you might have noticed the last couple of weeks we've been doing the Now Showing segment. So let's talk about what we're currently watching. Did you guys see anything in the last week that you've enjoyed?
I watched May December and then immediately watched it again. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet or talked about it, but it is fantastic. It is such an interesting, leveled, beautifully performed movie. The shots are interesting. The whole thing blew me away. It immediately went into my top 5 of the year.
Well, you better binge the crap out of our Carol discussion that dropped before this episode.
Yes.
I'm editing it now, but
I love Carol too, but this one really blew me away. Blew me away. It's amazing. Have you guys
Natalie
seen
Portman?
It? Natalie Portman? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
She's
Julianne
so good.
Moore. I can't wait to see it. I will definitely watch.
Watch it.
I think Les liked it too, right? I think he posted about it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I went to see most recently. I went to see the new Hunger Games movie, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I haven't read the newest book. I haven't read any of the books. My ex-boyfriend was a big fan of the books, and so I just went to the movies with him and saw everyone. And I'm a completionist when it comes to that stuff, so I just said, let me watch this newest one, which is from what I understand, a prequel to the Hunger Games series, and also Viola Davis. I call her my Hollywood mother because I really want to be in a movie with her one day.
Mm-hmm.
She plays the villain, I guess, or one of the villains in this movie, and I've never seen Viola Davis play something so not her. I guess what Hollywood compartmentalized her in, besides playing Annalise Keating, who in some ways is an anti-hero. She's, that character is very flawed in certain ways, but seeing her play this character was just a delight and a treat. The makeup, the hair, the weird platform shoes, the blood red lab robe, it was just delicious. It's so funny because I guess the movie in some ways is kind of a darker twist on what we're talking about today with the movie that we decided to watch in terms of class and privilege. But I highly recommend it. If not for the Hunger Games fans, if you're a Viola Davis fan, go see it.
Yeah, sounds good. I've been very, very busy. I don't think I've watched any movies in the last week, but I have been watching Battlestar Galactica again. I'm on another rewatch. The early aughts version. It's just amazing. It's a great show.
It is. We've watched and rewatched it many times in our family.
Oh, good. It's not just.
And, I'm not a sci-fi person, and I love that show.
It's funny. I was just talking to my friend Will, who is a major Battlestar Galactica fan. So I've seen most of the series. I missed the block of time when they're off of New Caprica and they just get back on Galactica. So I missed season 3, I want to say.
Oh,
so I missed that gap in time.
So good.
I know. My friend Will was so mad at me. We were in this honeymoon phase. And when I said, yeah, I missed this portion, he was like,
and you're a completist. You say you're a completist. Yeah, you better prove it.
I know.
Yeah, you gotta go back and watch.
I mean, I know. I think, Battlestar Galactica is just, it's one of those shows where it is just, it's so amazing, but it's a little intense. So for me, I'm watching maybe 3 episodes and I'm like, okay,
I
got to catch my breath. And then I come back.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this week we are going to be discussing Trading Places. Trading Places is a 1983 American comedy film directed by John Landis, starring Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, Ralph Bellamy, Don Amici, I think. Amici, and Jamie Lee Curtis. The film tells the story of an upper-class commodities broker, Dan Aykroyd, and a poor street hustler, Eddie Murphy, whose lives cross when they are unwittingly made the subject of an elaborate bet to test how each man will perform when their life circumstances are swapped. So I think I've mentioned this before. What makes me laugh are things that are, I guess, uncomfortable or stuff that's edgy. And so a lot of modern comedies don't really tickle my funny bone. Like, it'd be like, oh, you're going to see that new comedy? And I'm like, probably not, because I'm sure it's going to suck. I probably won't laugh. I don't know. I feel like they don't pull punches anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, modern comedies just don't really hit me in the same way, right? I think the last film that I saw that really made me belly laugh was Tropic Thunder. And they're not making that movie again.
Oh,
So
no, unfortunately, they're not.
I wanted to go back and watch this film because I just remember how much it made me laugh. And I hadn't watched it in years. And, well, from the first 5 minutes, I was laughing, and I laughed all the way through. But what did you guys think?
I had a little trouble getting past the era-ness of it. And yeah, all I could see was classism and racism and naked boobs on women.
And
That's
homophobia. A lot of homophobia.
Yes, sorry, exactly. And so I try to enjoy it outside of all of that. But sometimes that can get a little overwhelming to where that's all you can focus on. But Eddie Murphy is Eddie Murphy, and he is obviously the star of this movie, and he is hilarious in this movie. And also, I noted that he's a good actor. Eddie Murphy is a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not just funny, you know? So I appreciated that about him.
I remember having this movie would be on in the house when I was a kid, and going back and watching it now completely as as an adult, I mean, yeah, there were some of like the I think the isms, besides the homophobia and some of the sexism, like there were just way too many boobs and not enough penises. That's always my thing.
Exactly.
I'm like, if we're gonna show boobs, we need to see penises. It's got to be
Agreed.
the ratio is off, and it's still.
We did get that scene of Eddie in the hot tub, though.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
What?
We just need to tell John Landis, show us the dick cut.
Yeah, it's only fair.
What I enjoyed about this movie was that it is funny, but if you are really watching, the social commentary is there.
Yep, that's true.
It's there, and it says a lot in its imagery.
Yes.
I mean, the way that all of the traders, the investors, they have that giant room that they all sit in, and it's almost it's like a synchronized dance. Like there's like, what is it? It's like a bird's eye. It's a bird's eye shot, and you watch them all come together, sit down at this table at the same time. It's all white men.
It looked like Parliament, like in England. That's what it reminded me of.
Exactly.
All the paintings on the wall were white men.
Yes. It's the paintings on the wall, and you see when Dan Aykroyd is getting pulled away, the camera goes to the shots of the white men on the wall as if they're watching him. Watching him. Yeah. Yes. And then you've got Lattimore and Randolph. Those are the two.
Mortimer.
Mortimer.
Randolph and Mortimer Duke. Yeah.
And so at both of their desks, there's a shot of Reagan and Nixon.
I noted that too. And also I felt like which one they picked for each character was very interesting, that they gave the one who's kind of the skeptical bad one, Nixon, and then the other one, Reagan. Not that Reagan's good, but he's not Nixon, I thought that was hilarious.
But I mean, it's like, to me, it's like the commentary is there, and that's what I enjoyed. I mean, like, the use of the N-word, yes, it was uncomfortable. And I will say at the same time, in that world, the truth is, yes, that word is dropped by people like that. That word is going to be dropped effortlessly. So there's an honesty. There's an honesty to that text.
I felt that way the same about the use of the it's going to come up in the director's cut segment anyway, but the use of the word that begins with the F that refers to homosexuals, that was used very very loosely in this film. And I will say that whenever Eddie said it for some reason, I'm not mad. It actually, the first time I heard him say it, it made me laugh out loud because I wasn't expecting it. I was so uncomfortable. I was just like, oh my God, because I'm used to watching the, taped from television on a VHS tape copy of this film. I've never seen the film not
Oh,
off TV, like the unedited
interesting.
real version. So I've never seen all the boobies. I've never heard the N word on this film. I've never heard the F word in this film. And so for me watching it now as an adult, seeing it unedited, I find it more funny than I found it as a kid. Like, I just couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, oh my God, they said that? Like, whatever. But it is, as you guys said, it's of its time. And
It's of its time.
I think it's a disservice to look back at any form of art from a particular time and put today's judgments on it. To think about the art, whether it's music or whether it's cinema, we have to look at it at the lens of, the people that created it. You know what I mean?
It's a
Um,
reflection of the time.
it's a reflection of the time.
It's
So I'm
right.
not going to judge it by today's standards. I'm going to sit in knowing it's an 80s film, knowing these things are going to happen,
Right.
knowing there'll be uncomfortable stuff. And I accept that going in. I sign the waiver. And so
Yeah.
I get in and I enjoy the film. That's me.
Yeah, and I think taking off of that too is like if there are things like, for example, like for me, like the F word did make me uncomfortable, just because the use of it was, I think, kind of like more improvised, whereas in
It's not in the
the
script.
N word, yeah, like it seemed like it was more improvised, whereas like the N word, when it was used throughout the movie, it was very much, you could tell it was of the text, and it was just very appropriate for those characters to
They punched it.
use that
That word got
language.
punched. Yes.
Yeah. And I think when we see things like that, and when we're looking at certain things today, and we're looking, at pieces of art in the past, it's like, if something like that does make you uncomfortable, that's a time to start a dialogue about it and say, okay, well, let's discuss this. Let's discuss what was happening on at this time. Let's discuss why it was okay at that time. I mean, not okay for lack of better words, but why it was so normal to say, and why it's not okay to say today, instead of just completely ignoring the piece. But I mean, there's an opportunity there for dialogue and for
And you don't want to revise history. Like, if let's say you
right.
make a movie today that takes place in 80s New York, you don't want to have everybody speaking like they do today. It would just not be realistic.
No, it wouldn't
It,
be honest.
or like showing a movie in the 1960s, filming a movie today about the 1960s and having nobody smoking cigarettes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was smoking.
Yeah.
I will just say that for me, my experience on this rewatch was interesting because my Gen Z son was in the room. And because that's all they know is, their perspective is shorter than ours. And he's 19 and he was shocked. He was shocked by it. Shocked.
Shocked into laughing or no?
No laughing.
No laughing, just shocked.
No.
Okay.
The perspective was just completely flipped. And I'm not gonna lie, the boobs, he was like, why are there so many boobs? he couldn't get over it. I'm like, every 80s movie, comedy or otherwise, had to show boobs. It's just
Just
totally
had
the
to.
way
It
it
was
was.
just. It was a very unfortunate staple. But I think speaking to
Yeah.
that just shows where we're going. I think in a positive
Exactly.
way, right? That shows where
Yeah.
we're headed. So I don't know. There's hope. I like that. I'm glad that he
Yeah.
had that.
Well, guys, topic 2. We're dropped into Philadelphia at the start of the film, and we are existing with all these characters. We are seeing, what the corner grocery store looks like. We are seeing all these people living their lives. And then we start meeting the individual characters that we're going to be introduced to in the film, like Lewis and Coleman, the Dukes, Billy Ray, and Ophelia. How do you think the film did setting up the characters?
I can say for me that the Dukes, I immediately went to Statler and Waldorf, the old grumpy guys
Oh, yeah.
on the Muppets up in the balcony. because I looked it up, and those characters were created in 1975, and this movie's from '83. And I thought, was that inspiration? Because they're so much like them,
Mm-hmm.
even in obviously in their grumpiness and their snootiness, but also in their looks. I'm like, they just cast those Muppets.
Those are the real life Muppets.
Yeah.
I like the way that Ophelia was introduced. Even though this movie, is definitely dated in some ways, I think Ophelia has a lot of power in this film. Aykroyd. Wow, I'm just gonna call him Aykroyd for the rest of the
I like that, actually.
Dan
It's like
Aykroyd,
Jennifer.
when he comes to her apartment, he has a moment where he just says, "You're a prostitute."
That's awesome.
She has this moment where she's listing off everything that she has done, all the accomplishments that she's made,
The money that she saved up, that was, to me, that was the big moment.
Saved, and she basically lays it out and says, "I'm going to help you get back on your feet. You are going to do this for me." Yep. And it's like, no, I'm pimping you out. That's how this is working.
Yes.
And that's how the scene ends. And I just was like, yes. That twist for me was delicious.
It was like one more business proposal. It's just she talked to him on his level in a way she knew he would understand.
Yeah. I thought that was a great scene. I love that scene.
I think it's the scene of the movie. To me, it stood out because it is so much. It's as much about classism as it is about racial differences. And in that moment, you see somebody who's not in his class, but still at his level. And also it's a woman. And so I thought that whole scene that made the movie for me. I thought it was essential to making the whole thing work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Plus, she's so hot. Come on.
My God. Good Lord.
Jamie Lee.
And today, Jamie Lee just stays sexy. She stays sexy. Mm-hmm. It's just, she can't not be sexy. She cannot be gorgeous. It's just, we love you, Jamie.
Yeah. And also she's talented. So it's not just, oh my God, look at her body, which is hard not to do too. But since she's naked about 3 times, but yeah, it's just her talent was the same then as it is now, obviously. But it just, to see her so young and to be able to just totally hit it out of the park at that age too.
Yeah.
She's Hollywood royalty, so there's probably part of it, but
Ophelia had this confidence and this badass bitchness to her where she just owned and controlled every room she was in, which I think is accurate for her character. She was a private business owner, so to speak, and she was making her money without judgment and paying her bills, putting stuff aside. So
it was a very non of the era look at sex workers, I thought, because she was it was a total modern, it's how people view them really today. So the fact that was in 1983, it really kind of blew me away, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I loved the introduction of Billy Ray, who definitely had like this Ray Charles kind of look about him, with the dark glasses and the swaying back and forth in his little box and pretending that he didn't have no legs. It was just every line of dialogue, that whole scene between the cops. And then he's found out and they pick him up. One has one arm, one has the other. They pick him up and his legs drop and he's like, "It's a miracle. Oh, praise God, praise God." And he just keeps walking back and back and back. And, "Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I can live again. I got legs." And he just keeps going further and further back before, he ends up getting arrested. But that whole scene was just, I don't know, just tickled my funny bone. I just was laughing the whole time.
I immediately went to his SNL Stevie Wonder that he used to do. That was so hilarious.
That's what I was gonna say when he's moving his head back and forth. I was like, "There's that Stevie Wonder bit. There it is."
Yep. So funny.
Well, if you guys were Billy Ray, what would your response have been to the Duke's proposal?
Well, I'm poor, so I would have done it too. Taken a break in that nice big house with a butler and enjoyed every minute of it. Took it for what it was worth. That's what I would do.
I think there's the element of me, of me being poor and not having money. There's also the element of me realizing my setting, that I'm in this place with all these upper scale white people, and I probably would have had like a Get Out moment.
I was gonna say, Get Out.
And I would have weighed my options. I would have weighed my my options at that point and just said, well, short term, I could do this. Long term, I don't know. I could be part of a snuff film.
Sunken Place.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. I would have been in between the two.
Yeah, it is a little creepy. You get these two white dudes rolling up on you, saying, "Hey, you know, get in our car," and like, "Ooh, we have liquor." You know, they're just shaking the liquor bottle. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so racist," but I laughed. But no, if that happened to me, and I was in that same situation as Eddie Murphy, if I was that character and this was happening to me, I would have skeptically gotten in the car as well. I don't know if I could have pulled it off as well as Eddie did, though. Like you were saying, Mel, he had some intelligence. He had some smarts to him, and not just street smarts. He was an intelligent guy. He was perceptive. Mm-hmm. And
reads people well.
Yeah. And he figured out even like how to do the job of a commodities broker pretty fast. So I thought that was cool.
I thought, one thing I thought was interesting about it is that he's a scammer too. So game recognizes game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
can see where he saw those guys in that limo and them shaking that liquor bottle to try to get him in there, as they're scamming me, so I'm going to scam them. That's the way I took it too.
Oh, good point. He was probably looking for an angle the whole time.
Yep.
With the theme of the piece, again, trading places, just like Jamie Lee Curtis is, twisting it on Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy was doing the exact same thing with these two men. And, it's just Jamie Lee and Eddie, they may not be in the same room, but they have the same intelligence, and if not more, they just don't have the same opportunity.
Yes, that's why I thought her character was so interesting, because it's halfway through the movie and they introduce the woman, and she is on Eddie's level in so many ways. And to have that as a contrast for Valentine, but also you knew she and him were going to be in it together because they're on the same level. I thought it just really lifted his character traits. It's smart writing to me, and to have her be a woman and a white woman. Yeah, I just thought it was really good writing, that character.
When I think of this film, I think of Ophelia as one of the, the main characters. You brought up a good point, Melissa, that, she doesn't appear till like midway through the film. And then she's like pretty much in the whole thing after. Yeah. But it doesn't feel complete until she joins the picture. And then it's like, okay, now we're really rocking. Like we have the trio here. Yep. That are gonna take down the Dukes. Yeah.
Yep. Safety in numbers too, because they got the butler on their side too.
That's right. That's right.
It's all of them against the Dukes.
And the butler's he's not into anybody. He's he's gaming everybody else too. Like he doesn't care what team he's on. And he's like, he's going to get his.
Too. Isn't that like a scammer too? It's like, I'm just going to float and change my personality based on whoever I'm serving in the moment.
Yeah.
And he's getting what he needs out of it as well.
Yeah. I love at the end of the film, sorry, jumping ahead a little bit, but they're on the beach and he's got the little butler. That was great.
Exactly.
Oh, do you need anything else, sir? Oh my God.
Oh my Lord. So funny.
Well, this movie can be confusing for some because of the complexities of, I guess, what they're all doing. What is the job? What do the Dukes do? Do you think that the film did a good job of explaining what a commodities trader does? And do you think that the filmmakers did a good enough job sort of explaining what the heroes' plan would be to foil the Dukes? Were you on the same page, like going through the film, or were there parts where you're like, okay, you lost me. I'm not sure what's happening here.
I was on the same page. I know nothing about commodities, obviously, but they did just enough to make it so that you knew who was scamming who in the moment. And when they laid out individual food products on the desk in their
Mm-hmm.
office. This is orange juice and why, and this is wheat and why. I thought kind of that was their moment to make the audience understand what was happening. They're explaining it to Valentine, but they're really explaining it to the audience, so you can
Yeah.
kind of just grasp enough to know what's going on.
Yeah, I would have to say that was the same thing for me. I was like, okay, this is, I really need to make sure that I'm paying attention here, because this is the important exposition that I need to hear. I think it really landed when Eddie Murphy steps in. A few scenes later, Duke and Duke have that moment where they're just going about their day, about to do whatever they're about to do in regards to stocks. And then Eddie Murphy's got his moment where he's telling me, you're making a mistake. And then
Yep.
he starts to go through his
Mhm.
process of why they need to wait just a little bit longer. And for me, that was a moment of even more clarity. And then I said to myself,
Yep.
okay. Yeah.
And then it's really just access to information, really, because
Yeah.
anybody can learn that and do that.
Mhm.
But not everybody, including sex workers and street people, have
Mhm.
access to that. But see, once they do and they learn, and that says a lot, I think, about classism and racism and sexism. It's the white men who have access to that information.
Yeah.
But once they show it to Valentine, he excels at it. It's because he's gotten a little education. And I mean, that's what I thought about it. It's like access to information and education is vital, because look what happens when it happens.
Because he was
Yep.
taking his learned life skills and
Yeah.
applying it to this once he had like the tools. Once he was
Yep.
shown how to
Mhm.
like do the basics of it, he was like, okay, well, I'm going to take my experiences and apply it to this. And then he was, gold.
Great. Yeah, great at it, which
Yeah.
says a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think, when I was watching it as a kid, I mean, I guess I had like a rough idea because of, like you were saying, the different, like the fruit and stuff that they were putting out on the table. I'm like, okay, I kind of get this, I guess, whatever. But I think I understand it, definitely more as an adult, and the more times I've watched it, I've had a better understanding of sort of what everybody's role was in the big con. And how it went down. But it is a little complicated. But I mean, I give the filmmakers credit. I think that they simplified it enough for a basic understanding where you could kind of see where the plot was going enough.
Right.
Yeah.
The visuals of the numbers going down on that really old computer screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that, they told it visually by having the food on the table and what each one represented. So instead of just telling you what it all means, they really did a good job visually of showing it, I thought.
Yeah. It was the simplicity. And not to compare the films, but what is that other, there's another film that came out maybe in the last 10 years that also had to do with stocks and
Big Short.
Yeah, The Big Short. With The Big Short, I mean, it was. I remember seeing it explained in that movie, and I had a very hard time keeping up. It was just, I think maybe it was a bit too much for me. Yeah, it was, and I think that they were, the powers that be that created. I think they were trying, but to me, it was too much. But here in Trading Places, it was just enough. I think it was simplified in a certain way that I said to myself, okay, I can go on this journey, and I know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, The Big Short is so complicated. They had to bring in Margot Robbie and cut to famous people to explain that, when a short sale on a house is blah, blah, blah. Like, they would have to go and actually explain each thing they were talking about, which to me is they're telling you what's going on instead of showing you. And that's a huge difference.
Yep.
Well, guys, this movie, it's of its time, but it is a comedy. And I'm hoping that you both got a chuckle or two out of it. So I want to ask, what are some moments in this film in particular that made you laugh or smile?
I loved when he went back to the bar in his fancy clothes and how he had this new lease on how he was going to deal with people. And I thought that whole scene was hysterical. It also has significance in my family because the other guy who does all the talking at him, and then the other guy who goes, yeah. We do that, a lot in my family. Yeah, that's my brother's thing when he's trying to be funny and tough. Yeah. So I thought that whole scene is so interesting and funny, and Eddie is so funny because Eddie has this thing he does with his face that I've noticed, that when he's kind of switching into a different character, it's almost like you can see it on his face, and he does it like 5 times in that scene, and I love it.
I think for me, I'm someone that I like the uncomfortable humor if I can tell that it is rooted in satire. That is,
Right.
for me, I have no problem with racist humor, sexist humor, homophobia. If it is rooted in satire and rooted in truth, to me, that's where the comedy comes in, because you have to laugh to keep from crying. That's just me, though. So there's one there's one moment in particular where, oh God, I can't remember what happened, but one of the dukes says, "They're rather musical people, aren't they?"
Oh yes! Oh my God, I love that. It's so funny.
And I laughed so hard. But I mean, it's because it's that ignorant mindset, right?
Yes, they're just old racist white dudes, and they're so old and racist. It's funny.
Yes, and that's the root of it, and that's what made me laugh. That stuff is funny to me. There's another moment. Oh, the moment with Dan Aykroyd when he's, I guess, more or less at the police lineup at the the station, and he's getting, I guess, interrogated, or they're searching his stuff. That's what they're doing. They're searching his stuff.
Yeah.
And then at one moment, Dan Aykroyd says, "That man was trying to have sex with me."
And also, did you notice the lineup of black men behind him? It was like all in the jail.
Right? But to me, that was, I mean, the black men in the lineup, it was pretty much all black men in that lineup. The older black men that are butlers.
Yep. Oh, in that scene in the Heritage Club with the big table.
Yes.
Everybody got served by a black man.
They gave him a Christmas bonus, and it was $5. Oh, but from both of them.
Right? It's just the honesty in that kind of stuff is hilarious.
Yep.
The audience in this film, I felt like, was in on the joke. Like, the filmmakers were making sure that the audience was knowing, hey, we're not saying that this is appropriate. We're actually saying the contrary. We're saying all of these people are horrible. Look at this awful things they're doing. And that's where the humor was. Yeah, agreed.
No, I was just going to say that it reminded me a lot of the movie Black Klansman. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh, so good. I love it.
Such a great movie. And it has that similar tone where you're in, as an audience member, you're in on the joke. And the jokes they're telling are definitely satire, but it is uncomfortable in the
very
same way.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
But you know that the filmmakers are making fun of the people who are wrong, not the ones who are right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that the Klansmen, they were all very much characters.
Exactly.
They were caricatures of Southern white racist people, and they were horrible humans, but so they were buffoons. And the filmmaker, Spike Lee, right? Spike Lee?
Yep.
Was definitely showing the audience that, yes, these people are doing horrible things. They are horrible people, but they're also fucking idiots.
Right.
And so we were all laughing at them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was going to say the same thing about when I think about Tropic Thunder, and it's like I know that some people of color have an issue with Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Tropic Thunder is incredibly controversial, and to people of color, all you can see is a minstrel show and blackface, and I get it. If you look a step further and you listen to the text in reference to his character, they're talking about how controversial this is. And this, I think they mentioned that the person's a method actor, and but they're pointing at the ridiculousness of this man going so far that he goes too far with his method. And that's where, that's the comedy. That's where it's coming in, because we're pointing at the ridiculousness of it. That's my soapbox on satire.
Well, I thought it was interesting that they also had blackface in Trading Places.
They do.
Yes,
and
they did.
That when I started the movie, and I actually got a screen grab of it, it warns, this, when they always have the rated R for blah, 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 sex and violence and swearing or whatever, they included blackface listed on Prime the copy I watched, it warns the viewer that is coming, and I thought that was very interesting.
No, they should. It's good that they do that. That way, people that don't want to see those things or be exposed to those things don't have to look at it, because it is done as comedy here, and we can all have a laugh, but it wasn't always. And for those particular films, especially like classic films, it's very offensive. Like some of the old black and white films, I like watching old films, but if I see that in an older film, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a major
not funny.
I mean, I'll even say in Trading Places, even here with Dan Aykroyd doing it, there was no. It's still uncomfortable because it's not like with Tropic Thunder where they're acknowledging how ridiculous it is. With Trading Places, it's just more of just Dan Aykroyd is going in the sky. So, huh?
Oh, sorry. I just was to say it's played for laughs in a totally different way. It's not like Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Exactly. Yeah, it's on a different level. But I will say, because we're talking about that particular scene, some of the moments that make you laugh, when I think about this film, I mean, really like thinking about watching this, but I hadn't seen it in years. What came to mind specifically for me was the entire train scene in this film. It's my brother from Cameroon, exchange student, the bad accents, the Eddie Murphy whipping himself with the thing, Dan Aykroyd coming in the dreads and blackface, Jamie Lee Curtis obviously being German, but no, she's Swedish. And that it was so ridiculous and over the top, all of it, that it just always, even when I was a little kid, all of that stuff just made me just laugh. And so when I was thinking of the film, that was like the first thing that came to mind, was like all of the portions of this film that take place on the train, when they knock the guy out and they put the gorilla outfit on him and throw him in the cage, and like, oh, there only supposed to be one. It's okay. Whatever. They get two of them. Yeah, that was, for me, that whole back half of the film, although I acknowledge it's uncomfortable for some, had me in stitches.
Something about that scene in particular is that you have a lot of, it's like the epic Marvel crossover of SNL of that time too.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the SNL people there. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Eddie, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi. Not John Belushi, right?
Jim Belushi.
John Belushi.
Jim Belushi.
You're right. John died.
Jim Belushi. You've got Al
Franken.
Al Franken. He was cute.
So cute.
I can't believe you recognized him.
Back in the day. Huh?
I can't believe you recognized him. I was going to see if anybody recognized him.
Oh, I totally recognized him. But, I mean, that's for that scene in particular, everybody was in that. I think it's interesting because I was watching the movie again with my dad last night, and I thought that Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd had been of that same SNL class, and I don't think that they ever were. No. So, and I think they just missed each other by a year, which is wild. I always thought that they were. That's crazy.
Richard Pryor was intended originally to play the Eddie Murphy Valentine character.
That's interesting.
Oh, can you imagine how that would have been?
It would have been even raunchier, I think.
It would have. It would have.
Also, the guy that played the other baggage handler guy is Tom Davis, and he is a long time SNL writer, like decades. So I thought that was interesting too. Also, at the beginning of the movie, it was interesting to me that they picked, speaking of casting, Dan Aykroyd to play Louis.
Yeah, Louis.
Winthrop.
To have him play, because Winthrop, thank you. He's such a blue collar guy, and all his SNL characters were very, very blue collar.
I don't know. What about the guy that's selling the Christmas toys?
Yeah, that guy's a shyster.
He's a shyster, but he's a business person. I don't know.
True, but he's kind of it's a bag of glass. So he's selling a bag of glass
to children.
To children for the holidays.
Yeah.
So To me,
I mean,
almost all his characters on SNL have that kind of a little bit of a roughness to him, and then to see him play such a snooty, rich, successful man, I
Did
just
a
thought
good
it was
job,
very,
though.
yeah, it was an interesting choice, but he definitely pulled it off. He had the right hair
he
for it, for
definitely
sure.
committed. He committed, and I was thinking about that too while I was watching the movie. I was thinking, Dan Aykroyd is, he's stretching himself. There is an honesty to what he's doing that it's not just an SNL character. I mean, and
it's
that's
not
not to
Blues
knock,
Brothers.
not to knock. It's not, yeah, it's not Blue. I mean, which is like, I love Blues Brothers, but it's like, it's not, I mean, not to knock the work that SNL actors do, because I mean, that's some great character work. But there was another dimension here that I guess maybe sometimes you don't always get with television that you get with film. You get a little bit more time to develop the character, just a little bit. And I saw that here with Dan Aykroyd in his performance.
Yeah, I really thought he and Eddie were. I came out of it going, those guys are actors, they're not just funny people.
Yes.
I liked the casting for that reason.
Well, listeners, now it's time for my favorite segment and yours.
Oh no.
Director's Cut.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
In this segment, we talk about some of our favorite scenes and replay them by acting out the scene in real time. So without any preparation. So it's all going to be ridiculous.
It's a cold read.
So the first scene I have chosen, it's when Eddie Murphy's character Valentine first bumps into the Dukes, and he's got that initial proposal. And there's 3 spots here. I want to be Billy Ray in this one. I don't care about the rest of them, but I'm Billy Ray in this first one. Because I think it would be funny to have Matt play one of the Dukes.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm going to have fun. I'll be Randolph.
Mel, I think that means you're Mortimer.
Okay. Is Mortimer the East Coast one or the...
It doesn't matter. You can play it any way you want.
Okay. I'll play it as a girl from Oregon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Action.
Mr. Valentine, could you spare us a moment?
Hey, man. Don't I know you 2 guys?
Step inside. It's nice and warm in here.
Whiskey. All you want.
Hey, look, man. I ain't falling for the same trick twice, all right? What are you going to do? Get me inside the car and have me arrested for stealing it?
Why would we do that, Mr. Valentine? We're the ones who bailed you out.
Say, man, who are y'all? What do you want to do with me?
We want to help you, Mr. Valentine. My brother and I run a privately funded program to rehabilitate culturally disadvantaged people. We would like to supply you with a home of your own, a car, a generous bank account, and employment with our company.
We're going to start you at $80,000 a year.
$80,000?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. This is a practical joke, right, bro? Then these dudes are a couple of Fiona. Well, what's my next move, man? Thank you. You've been helpful. What about the police and the payroll?
Yeah, we've had the charges dropped, Mr. Valentine.
You're a free man, Valentine. We can stop right now and you can walk out on us forever.
No. I believe I can hang out with you fellas for a while.
Excellent. I'm Randolph Duke.
How you doing, Randy? What's happening?
And my younger brother, Mortimer.
Morty! What is it? How you doing? Billy Ray, Valentine, Capricorn. Randy, that's like Randy Jackson from Jackson 5, right?
Yes. Yes, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Cut.
Oh my
I'm glad
God.
you picked Valentine and not me. That's all.
So much fun. So much fun. Thank you guys for indulging me. That was the dream. But the listeners are probably confused, like he's like talking to himself. But they're literally, if you're watching the movie, when he's in the car, he's leaning over to talk to the driver.
Yeah.
And the driver just is nodding and not saying anything.
I mean, I was like, they don't want to pay their extras.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So the driver just kept nodding or disagreeing with his head.
Yeah.
Like, pay the guy, give him a line or two.
Give him a line. Oh, well. Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn.
And also, I thought it was interesting that, he immediately goes to the only other black person in the car.
I mean, I saw that too.
Right?
Yeah.
So these white people are clearly lying to him. So let me go ask the black driver and he'll give me the truth. And all he does is just nod and shake his head. So it sets up
I have had those moments. I have had those moments myself where if the situation is a little sketchy, I'll find the other black person and I will check in on a different level and say, hey,
hey,
what's going on?
Yep.
Well, scene number 2 we have here. Matt, you picked this one. Tell us about it.
So we've got the introductory scene with Ophelia is when she's on the steps right outside of the police station. But to me, this is the Ophelia introduction scene. We really see who she is. She takes Winthorpe back to her apartment, and she pretty much just shows herself as an incredibly capable and confident individual who is just as much, if not more so, on a higher level than Winthorpe is. And I just enjoy the twist.
Also, I like how she kind of code switches by calling him a different name. He's no longer Winthorpe, he's Louis, which is a very down-home name. It's not snooty like Winthorpe. She doesn't say Louis, she says Louis.
Louis.
I thought it's immediately telling you what her perspective is with that switch. And what his new perspective is now that he's not Mr. Big Shot. Now he's just Louis.
He's got to get used to his new reality awful fast.
Yep.
I really want to play Ophelia.
I guess I will be Louis.
Action.
Let me assure you, he is going to pay for this. What I'm going to do to that sneak doesn't bear description.
Let's get one thing straight, Louis. Taxis cost money, food costs money, rent costs money. You want me to help you? I expect a lot in return. These belong to the last guy who thought I was giving out free rides. You can use them if you want.
I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciate this.
Ophelia.
Ophelia! That is a beautiful name. You realize your name...
Hamlet's girlfriend, I know. Every white trick in this town told me about that dumb bitch. This ain't Shakespeare, Louis, you dig? I'm talking about a business proposition to help you get back on your feet. I want something good like that diamond ring and that fur coat your girlfriend had.
Definitely. Anything you want. You deserve it. 100,000 times more than her.
By the way, food and rent ain't the only things that cost money around here. That's your bet.
Cut.
That was good. Yeah, you're right. That does sort of set up who Ophelia is. And she's the boss.
I mean, she knows her name comes from Shakespeare. She knows the story of what it comes from. I think it's interesting how in the script it says every white trick knows what Ophelia is, meaning that the non-whites don't know Shakespeare. And then that line was not in the movie.
Oh,
yeah, that was cut. That was definitely cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some decisions made when they were filming. They cut out some stuff and added some stuff, yeah.
Now, is that because they're saying something about who she sleeps with in her job? That it includes everybody? Or are they saying, I don't know. I kind of took it in a couple ways. Like, why specify white, that only the white tricks know that? I might be looking way too much into this, but that's the first thing I thought of.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of different factors. I mean, there's also like, with film, they're a bit more lenient. If we were in a play and, an actor dropped a line, I've heard of, productions where you get fined for every word that you miss. And that's like a cut of your pay. But, with film, Lord. It's a bit more lenient. If it sounds more natural during the take, then they're just like, go with that. Sounds more honest.
Yeah. And also the editing process, who knows what they decide. By the time editing starts, what they've decided is right and what's not right.
Yeah. Well, we have one more scene. Matt, you also picked this one. So what's this one about?
I did. I totally forgot that I picked this one. Okay, so this one is where it's a few scenes later after Billy Ray, after the two Dukes explain to Billy Ray what their jobs are, and we see Billy Ray apply his smarts, his intelligence to what the Dukes have told him about their job process, and you see that Billy Ray is, just like Ophelia, just more capable than they are. And the way that Billy Ray explains it is so simple that it's, to me, accessible to everyone. Yeah.
I want Mortimer again. I'm sticking with my guy, Mortimer.
I actually was hoping, because I wanted to be Randolph, because I really, we need at least one version of this podcast where Matt is Billy Ray.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. I want to hear your Eddie Murphy. I got to hear it.
Oh, God.
Action.
Mistake. Big mistake.
Mistake? Valentine, something very important is going on here. Just watch.
You're going to get reamed on this one.
Well, why shouldn't we buy now, William?
Price is going to keep going down.
Randolph, this isn't Monopoly money we're playing with.
Randolph Duke here. Hold that belly order. Now, tell me why you think the price of pork bellies is going to go down.
It's Christmas. Everybody's uptight.
Could we please buy now, Randolph?
You want to lose money? Go ahead.
What are you trying to say, William?
Simple. I've been watching this thing you got all morning. The whole purpose of this commodities deal is to separate as much money from as many people as possible, right? Ain't no way you two make money unless guy loses his, right? Okay. These pork belly prices have been dropping all day. Everybody's waiting for them to hit bottom so they can buy them cheap and go long. All the guys who got all these pork belly contracts right now are going batshit because they're losing money and they're thinking it's Christmas coming up and they ain't going to have money to buy presents and the kids are going to look at them like they wasn't shit. And the wives ain't going to want to sleep with them and they're screaming, sell, because they don't want to lose all the money. That's what they're doing. I can feel them out there. They're panicking.
He's right, Mortimer. My God, look at it. That's a terrible price. Look at it. It's just sitting there like a turd in a toilet. That could have been us, Mortimer.
It goes down to around 64 I'd buy. You have cleaned out the last suckers.
Cut.
I don't think in the movie, they said turd in a toilet. But
I don't think they did either.
I love the line.
It does not fit the character to me at all.
Probably not, but it's a funny one. Oh, shit.
He could have said they're shitting Twinkies. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they're shitting Twinkies. Exactly.
A lovely callback.
Yeah, that's a good scene as well, because it just shows how smart Billy Ray is.
Also, when he mentions that they're essentially just bookies, he equates their jobs to bookies, and I felt like that's how he approached it. Like he was talking to a bookie.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we've reached rewrites. This is the portion of the pod where we invite the hosts to make creative changes, take creative liberties, if you will, with the film. So if we were making it, what would we alter and change to suit our tastes? What do you guys think?
Personally, as the woman in the room, I would say no boobs. There's just no necessity for all the nudity. It's just such nudity for nudity's sake, and it's only female nudity. And I know it's of the era, and there are boobs in all the comedies of that time, but it's just not necessary. It adds nothing to the story or the plot or the characters. So I would.
They didn't have the boobies in the VHS copied from television version that I grew up with. So I was very surprised. I'm like, oh, here's some titties, and here's some titties, and here's some titties. I mean, I don't have a problem with titties.
They all seemed like they were natural, which would not happen today.
Rock and roll.
So I appreciate the naturalness of them, but I still didn't need to see them.
I agree.
I was just happy to see Eddie Murphy in the hot tub. Even though he accused the butler of being a Fiona, I still liked the scene because he was sitting, with nothing on. Yay, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, for me, it would have been too many boobs. I would cut the boobs. I wouldn't have said the F word. And I think that's it. I think that's it for me. Those are the only things that bothered me.
Yeah, I was surprised by the liberal use of the F word, which I've spoken a few times on the pod today. But no, but it is of its time, so I get that. I'm trying to think if there's anything really, because again, I'm looking at the piece of its time, and I just feel like it's authentic for when it was made. So I wouldn't. I don't think I'd really change any of it. I don't know. It's not suitable for today's audiences, or for today's sensibilities to be, referring to gay people as that. Obviously, as a gay person, I find it extremely offensive. But in this film, in the 80s of its time, I get it. And it did make me laugh because it was uncomfortable and I wasn't expecting it.
You know, to contrast that a little bit, and just because when I watched it, my 19-year-old was in the room, the thing that got me was that if somebody was watching that movie today, just a general person, I'm not sure they would apply all the things that we're applying to it. Like,
Probably not.
it's
No.
of the era.
No, probably not.
And so they are watching it and actually laughing at somebody saying the F word because they're saying it and what it represents to that person. So not everybody's going to watch it in modern times and be as futuristic and modern as the three of us are.
Mhm.
And that's what I kept
Yeah.
thinking about, is this is going to get laughed at in the wrong way now.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I think, again, just because of where we're at right now, I think in our culture, in terms of what makes us uncomfortable and not having and not being comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. I mean, in book banning as well, I think we're at this place now where we've got to be comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations and talking about some of this stuff in a very nuanced way, where
I'm just afraid that not everybody does that, We do that, but not everybody does that. And that's what my cringe came from.
Yeah. And I hope that at some point we're all able to get to that point where, we see something uncomfortable, we're able to look at it a certain way and have a conversation about it.
I get that too.
Well, now standouts. So now we talk about the things that we really liked about the film that we didn't have a chance to cover or say previously.
I'll repeat what I said about Jamie Lee Curtis's character Ophelia, that I thought it was a great representation, even in a modern way, of sex work and of women and of street smarts, and not just street smarts, but she clearly had some financial smarts going on too. And I just thought her character was so important and so interesting. And of course, I'm probably saying that because I'm a woman too, but I just, I really like how she was presented, and I was kind of surprised by it. So that was definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to take off of that and agree and say the same thing. Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Ophelia, was probably my standout, just because of the way the character was written for, for a movie of that time. Definitely a standout, and still ahead of its time.
Agreed.
So
I liked when they were setting up the film, just like I said, the moments where you get to see this city breathing and existing. And then, when they took the train and they're in New York, it's like you're in 80s New York and you're under the Twin Towers. And I was just there. And I was like, wow, they're really there. And you could touch the towers, And so I thought that was really cool. There was a lot of great cinematic moments as far as that's concerned, like the way that it was filmed. I liked some of the stylistic choices. And I liked the dialogue. Everybody had sort of moments to shine. Like all of the characters that had speaking lines, even the butler who didn't have a lot of speaking lines, he had moments to shine that were his moments, and he owned them. Like when he was offered the dessert, you can have the dessert. And he takes it and he just starts scraping it into the trash. And he's like over
that
it.
broke my heart.
Same.
Oh, because you wanted to eat it?
Yes.
Well, and also just because it was a slap in the face. You can't have all of it, but you can have this one little part of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. One other point, that everybody on the train on New Year's is dressed in a costume. Did we used to do that on New Year's Eve? Everybody dressed as something else? It wasn't Halloween. And then they have all the main characters also in costume, but not in the same way. They have Dan Aykroyd as the in the blackface as the Rasta person, and they have her in her lederhosen, and then Eddie Murphy in his African garb. And so to me, it was an interesting way to show that everybody's playing another character here.
I love costume parties. And so any excuse to have a costume party, I will participate in. I used to have a tradition for a number of years where I threw one every August 30th because people can wear, I don't know, more, I guess, comfortable clothes.
Yeah.
In August than you can get away with in October in New England. And so that was part of the fun and the appeal. But no, it's like I just love a good costume party where everybody can be silly and not taking themselves seriously, and you can be somebody else for a night and have a laugh. I love that. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the movie too. It's like the whole train portion. It was just, that's fun for me. I love it.
Yeah, it was good.
I want to be there.
Yeah, in '83.
Well, I don't know if I want to be there in '83. Maybe not. We'll pause that.
Yeah, I mean, '83 was rough.
Yeah, being in New York in the '80s, I would have been afraid to walk around. I would have stepped on a hypodermic needle or something.
Well, there was when you're talking about, some of the images of New York, there's an image in Times Square where there's it's like a nude bar or something.
Yeah, when Times Square was actually Times Square and not Disney-fied.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you can go to Times Square today and it's a very different place.
You have to, I feel like, leave New York altogether and head into New Jersey if you want to find a strip club. I don't know.
Or come to Portland. We have more strip clubs per capita than any city in America. I don't know why, but it's true fact.
Well, they don't need them anymore. There's OnlyFans.
True.
So.
I mean, that's right. If you want an immersive experience, then go to the strip club.
Yeah. Or you want to do it with your friends. You're not alone on your laptop.
Oh my. We're not here to kink shame. All right. On that note, all right, friends, let's do it. We'll head into trivia.
Oh, no.
So, Ralph Bellamy and Don Amici, Mortimer, they make cameo appearances in Coming to America in 1988 as the same characters. The two are now homeless, and Prince Akeem, Eddie Murphy, gives them a large amount of money to get back off the streets. And I love that scene from Coming to America. Coming to America is another amazing comedy. So funny.
Agreed.
It's another John Landis project, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, and also John Landis.
Yeah.
In 2010, as part of the Wall Street Transparency and Accountability Act, which was to regulate financial markets, a rule was included which barred anyone from using secret inside information to corner markets, similar to what the Dukes brothers tried to do in the movie. Since the movie inspired this rule, it has since become known as the Eddie Murphy Rule. That is awesome.
That is awesome.
I love that. It's so great.
Okay, so during the train scene, Ophelia's Swedish disguise came about because Jamie Lee Curtis couldn't do the correct Austrian accent, which I think is one of those happy comedy accidents.
Oh, sure is. That is so funny. No, I'm from Sweden. She can say it. Every year since 1997, Italian channel Italia 1 broadcasts the movie in Christmas Eve through nightfall. It regularly gets more than 10% of share. And again on December 24th, 2021, it was the most watched show on primetime TV with a 14.6 share. Wow. So this is really popular in Italy.
Never doubt American culture, man.
It must be the tits.
It must be the tits.
That's gotta be it. Penelope's played by Kristen Holby. Penelope's friend Muffy is played by Kelly Curtis, the sister of Jamie Lee Curtis. Interesting.
In releasing his financial records for 2012, Al Franken revealed, I'm assuming when he was running for the Senate, had to reveal them. He revealed that he still gets royalties for his appearance as the other baggage handler.
Yeah, that was an unexpected surprise. I forgot he was in it, and I was like, "Oh, it's Al Franken."
Yeah.
John Landis, as we mentioned before, directed Eddie Murphy in this movie, as well as Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Coming to America.
The electronic status board at Duke and Duke, which is seen prominently in the Christmas scene, is the big money board from Family Feud in 1976.
That's funny.
That is. Okay, the number given to Dan Aykroyd, Lewis Winthorpe III, is in his mugshot 7474508 is the same number given to John Belushi in Blues Brother. It was where he played Jake Blues, and they did that as a tribute to Belushi, who had died the year previous.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
Jim Belushi was a bit of stunt casting. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd co-starred in John Landis' last big movie. This would be Jim Belushi and Aykroyd's only film together in spite of John Belushi's long association with Aykroyd. John Belushi died in 1982, just a year before this movie came out, and likely would have played the Billy Ray Valentine part if he had lived, just as he would have played the Venkman character in Ghostbusters in 1984, which was also slotted for him.
Interesting. So John Belushi what? He would have been Billy Ray? I don't see how that would have happened. A white Billy Ray?
It would have been all about class and not race.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably.
It works so much better this way.
Yeah,
it works so much better with Eddie Murphy and with it being a black Billy Ray.
Yeah.
So if anytime that I see a Star Trek actor in a movie that we review, I have to mention it. So we've got three Star Trek actors that cross over in this movie. We've got Bill Cobbs, who played Emery Erickson, who is the inventor of transporter technology. He was seen in Star Trek Enterprise, season 4, episode 10, Daedalus. That's the name of the episode. We have Ron Taylor, who can be seen as the Klingon opera singer and owner of the Klingon restaurant on DS9, episode 17. The episode is Playing God. He also voices a Klingon in the Star Trek Klingon Academy video game. And you also see Nicholas Guest. Nicholas Guest plays one of the snobby, younger stocksmen. He's singing in the barbershop quartet scene when he's singing to the women. Nicholas Guest was one of the prominently featured cadets in Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan.
Wow.
And if you look very closely, I don't know if anyone saw it, but if you look very closely in the prison scene in Trading Places, you can see a very, very young Carlos Esposito. I'm messing up his name right now.
Yeah, it is. It's Gus from Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if he had any lines. He was a baby. I don't think he had any lines. I think he was just a background actor.
Well, you guys do know that Frank Oz, aka Yoda, was the guy that was taking his belongings and putting it into the baggies and stuff at the jail. Yeah.
Also interesting that you mentioned Nicholas Guest, because he and Christopher Guest are siblings, brothers, and Jamie Lee Curtis is married to Christopher Guest.
So. Wow.
World. It all comes together.
Well, guys, the three of us need to get paid. So let's give out some dollar bills, people, for this week's episode. What did you guys think of Trading Places?
I think Trading Places should be watched by multi-generational families, maybe even multiracial families like mine, because not only is it entertaining, but is a good, as you guys said, conversation starter.
Yeah.
And titties. Lots of titties.
And titties. I can't believe I keep saying the word tit and titties. That's so not normal to come out of my mouth. I'm a boobs person, clearly.
I just like saying titties. Mel,
can you hear me?
You didn't say how many dollar bills.
Oh, how high can I go?
1 to 5.
Oh, I would give it $4 bills for that reason. I gave.
Heck
It's a
yeah.
conversation starter.
So going off of what Mel was saying with this being a conversation starter, and for me, the satire, and I think for me, the very smart satire sometimes with just the imagery, I would give it 4 out of 5 as well.
Solid. Well, the internet's going to come at me. I'm going to be canceled. I just love the film. I'm going to give it 5 because I get belly laughs. There's awful things in this movie that are not appropriate for modern viewers, but I laugh all the way through it. It's so entertaining. It's acted so well. It's written so well. The directorial choices I was talking about before. I feel like I'm always bringing up moments to breathe, and you have moments to breathe and get to know these characters in their lives before and after. So I felt like, I'm going to give it five whole dollars to this film.
Yes,
They
give
get
it
$5
5.
like that.
That's their Christmas bonus.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird that
And
those
that's
match
from
up.
all 3 of us.
Yes.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
So, Matt, what are we going to be talking about next week for your pick?
Next week, you will have a choice. You can either take the blue pill or the red pill. And if you get that reference, then yes, we will be watching The Matrix. The Matrix is a groundbreaking piece of cinema from 1999, directed by the Wachowski siblings, starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, and it's a beautiful piece of work. We see a type of cinema that has inspired a lot of cinema to come decades down the road. Long story short, if you have not seen The Matrix, it's basically about this computer hacker that has now been confronted with a choice to either stay in his life as it is or to make a journey and be exposed to the real world. And the real world is a much darker, scarier place. Or is it? And that's the teaser.
So excited to watch this. I love watching films that I already own. I don't have to buy them or rent them. No, this is such a good film. I don't know how many times I watched it in the theater and then rented it and what have you after the fact. It's so good because it really makes you think about, our own lives and, how we choose to live them, how we choose to see ourselves, what we're capable of. There's a lot to be said about this film. That's why it has stood the test of time. That's why it has been so popular over the years, because it's not just an action film. It has deep meaning to it. It's a beautiful film.
It really is. It is one of those few films that I think has a great mix of action, theme, great storytelling, visuals. It's all so well done. To me, at the core, the story is good, and you're allowed to, and you can take something away from it. And to me, that is cinema. That's storytelling at its best to me. I think this movie really does that very well. I'm looking forward.
And Matt, are we going to have a special guest for that episode? Just asking for a friend.
We will be having a special guest for this episode. My dad, who is responsible for introducing me to The Matrix, will be coming on to discuss The Matrix with us. Finally, we're getting my dad on. So,
am I allowed to call him Daddy or no?
Am I?
I think that might be
okay.
Just a little awkward.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just asking. I don't know. Well, maybe with the cocktails, he might loosen up. We'll see.
I'm still not here to king shame.
Well, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also send your thoughts to @CinemaZPod on Twitter and BlueSky and let us know if you'd like to recommend a film. Please follow the network on Twitter, BlueSky, and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. So, Melissa, where can people find you when you are not exposing your children to all of the best films that you can think of?
You can find me on Twitter. I refuse to say X. On Twitter at Mel_Med_Larson. That's Med, M-E-D, and Larson with an O-N. I'm talking about movies on there all the time. And, Matt, when you're not cutting boobs out of 80s movies, where can people find you?
No, don't cut the boobs.
So when I'm not cutting boobs out of 80s movies, I'm putting penises into 80s movies just to make it all fair. That's what I'm doing. Gosh darn.
I appreciate that very, very much.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and I believe my YouTube channel as well. You can find me on all those on at 1701 BLERD. I've got a web series called 1701 A Blurred Story. It's about a gay black nerd using Star Trek to cope with life. I'm so close to getting my 3rd episode done and edited. I'm so close. You don't understand. But the 3rd episode's going to drop very soon. Please watch some of the videos and check out the channel. You can watch the first 2. And Mark, where can people find you when you are not awkwardly trying to lure people into your luxurious car with whiskey?
Hey, I got whiskey. Who wants whiskey? Matt, you want some whiskey?
I want some whiskey.
Melissa wants some. Show me your tits.
Don't make.
Well, I'm not doing that. You can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group. You can also find me on BlueSky. And, well, for now, that's about it, actually, because All Good Things were on hiatus for a little bit for the next couple months, while all of us hosts of All Good Things work on other side projects. It will be coming back, but for now, just in these places. So please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review that helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN.
At this time, we'd like to thank our associate producer, Amy Nelson. What's up, Amy? Also, a special thanks to Laz Marquez for our original show art. We love Laz. I love Laz. Mm-hmm. And the opening and closing music for this podcast is titled Dancing Dead and was provided by Scenza from the Free Music Archive, providing royalty-free music for content creators.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a Patreon of the network on Patreon. We will add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, we hope you'll tune in next time.
So I think I'm gonna go to the stock exchange and see how the pork belly is doing.
I'm going to check on the orange juice.
I'm going to make pork bellies for Christmas Eve now. With orange.
Pork bellies and orange juice.
An eggnog.
Christmas miracle.
And free titties. Who doesn't want titties under the mistletoe?
Especially Jamie Lee Curtis's. Holy
Oh my
moly.
god, epic.
Perfect.
I salute that. And I'm gay.
And I'm not. And they're perfection.
Listeners, we're going to raise our glasses here and toast to Jamie Lee Curtis's epic rack.
Boom. Love you, Jamie Lee.
Love ya. Oh my god, all the gay listeners weren't expecting to hear that in this podcast. Oh my lord.
I can hear scoffs. I can hear the scoffs across the world.
I don't want to see titties!
There's your Mortimer voice right there.
Right there it is. There's the voice.
It's a cock only for me. All right.